On this episode, Dylan Conway, infantry officer turned founder of the Australian Bibliotherapy Foundation, shares how 2 years confined to bed after a medical setback sparked a mission to get more Australians reading. From launching community libraries across the country to partnering with major organisations, Dylan reveals how books can change lives, build resilience and inspire action. Let's dive in. Welcome to the briefing room. Whether you're in defence, investing into the future, or simply curious about how great ideas become reality, this is your mission briefing. Let's get started. So today we've got a special guest, Dylan Conway. Thanks for joining us on our podcast. Do you want to give us a bit of an introduction on what it is that you do?
Yeah, thanks, Peter, for having me, and Steve as well. So my background, I'm an infantry officer by trade, which doesn't mean a lot out in civilian world, but I also run a charity called the Australian Bibliotherapy Foundation. And what our mission is to get more Australians reading books for a variety of reasons. But where we've landed is in the mental health space. So we use the term bibliotherapy, which has been around for about 120 years, but we've sort of lost the use in the common vernacular of Australians today.
I saw the word and I wondered, is this something you've made up? Or is it something you've just adopted?
So I actually wish I made it up, but back in World War I, they were utilising bibliotherapy to treat shell shock victims. I mean, it's something that the godfather or the father of psychology, Sigmund Freud, was also utilising for his patients. Of course, the words in the DSM have become more confusing. What we focus on is just getting good books to good people out there as sort of a stopgap between, you might have to wait 6 months to see a psychologist. All the best psychologists in the world have written books before. So we'll donate about $3,500 worth of books to any organisation that just sends us an email online, thanks to a partnership with Booktopia. And that's what we do, because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So what we do is put the water in organisations to hopefully increase their reading rates within their team and bring down their stress.
And so how did you go from full-time army to this? Have you fully left, exited?
So great question. So I was fortunate enough to draw a short straw and be diagnosed with a disease called pilonidal sinus disease. And what that is, it's just an ingrown hair in an unfortunate area. It's right on your tailbone. So I was a young infantry captain and I was trying my luck at 2 commando selection. But about 9 months out from that, I got this disease, which led to me spending 2 years in hospitals being unable to walk. I had 9 surgeries on my lower back, and it actually led to the top half of my, and excuse my French, but lack of a better word, the top half of my arse being amputated. So excuse me if my pants fall down today. I'm missing the top half of my arse. Wow. Absolutely crazy. And so I was doing my MBA during
You look like a pretty unfit fella as well.
Well, it's been crazy. My weight
ballooning. For those listening, he's a pretty impressive specimen, just to let you know.
And so I spent 2
years... Except for his arse,
which my misso gives me shit about, and so does
Jake.
Jake. And so it was wild to me. So, 3 months not being able to get outside at the start of it, not being able to see my friends, not being able to walk, shower, go to the toilet, all those things. And as you can imagine, life has its ups and downs. That was a big down for me. And so after 3 emergency surgeries at about that 3 months mark, I was feeling so sorry for myself, as you can imagine, going, why me, cursing the world. But all of a sudden one day, and it was just after I'd had an emergency surgery on Christmas. So, here's a sad story. A book rocked up at my door from one of my mentors in defence, and that book was called Yes to Life by Viktor Frankl. And it's a short book. It's about 150 pages. Viktor Frankl survived the concentration camps in World War II. And I read that book, and it only took about 2 hours. And all of a sudden, I found myself being grateful. Yes, I had a big cut in my lower back. Yes, I was bleeding all the time. Yes, I couldn't walk. But I said, wow, at least I'm not this guy, 1. And 2, if he can get out of something that's so horrible like that, well, so can I. And so from that point forward, for the next however long, 21 months or whatever that I was in bed, I just committed to reading hundreds and hundreds of books. And despite having, doing my MBA, having a bachelor's degree, that was the period of the most growth that I've ever had in my life. And I came out the other side and said, how the hell aren't we funding this? So we started with just encouraging people to share book reviews about important books that meant something to them in their life. And then we opened our first community library in the first ever Townsville Veteran Centre. And since then, we've donated around $600,000 worth of community libraries all around Australia without any government support. And anything that the charity does, and we've got a great board now, but anything that the charity does that's impressive, I just put it down to the books that I've read. So with marketing, you've got Seth Godin's Purple Cow. And with strategy, you've got Jim Collins's Good to Great. With how to run a charity, I read How to Run a Charity for Dummies and things like this. So we were able to avoid all of those legal fees and stuff at the start because we were just doing it ourselves through reading books. And that's what we do now. We just encourage people. And in your sector, I have no doubt that once people start to read these great books that we're donating, we'll see more and more entrepreneurialism arise from the ranks within Army, which I believe at the moment we've done. Almost 80% of every single Army hospital now has a Australian Bibliotherapy Foundation community library, so that they're not stuck reading the smut books that I had when I was in the hospital. Now they can read all these fantastic psychology, self-help, business, and all the great classics as well. So
in our space, some of the defining books you mentioned, Good to Great, which is with E-Myth's not a bad one.
E-Myth's excellent.
Yeah, good. Yep. Very, very short as well, right?
All right?
Well, for you to say the E-Myths are glowing.
Yeah, well,
it's
it's a very, very practical book, right?
Yep.
So, and then also you have Jason Calacanis, Angel, which is good. It's about being an angel. Then you have Brad Feld, Venture Deals.
Yes.
I want to say, yep. The other one, Ben Horowitz, The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
so
classic.
they're probably that's probably the little bookshelf there. So yeah.
And for me, right, you've just listed five great books that a lot of people would have never read. If Steve Baxter's saying, "Hey, go out and read these 5 books," you can bet your bottom dollar there's something to learn. And
what about the E-Myth? But when I talk about the E-Myth, they say, "Oh, it's about McDonald's." Well, no, it's not. Read about it, idiot. But it uses as an example. E-Myth's timeless. So,
and you always see people trying to scale their businesses go through the steps. So they bring
do.
someone on, they have to get rid of them, they don't want to hire again.
And anyone new who's writing about business now, it's just usually the latest developments, but the formulas, the concepts, they're all the same. They're just being repeated, but through new voices.
And self-help's very similar, right?
Yeah.
With, how to win friends and influence
Yes.
people. Yep. What's the other one? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective
Yes.
People by Stephen Covey. There's a reason that these books stay around, and it's because there's something in it. But obviously the reading rates in Australia, I know Australia Reads just published probably one of the most significant studies on the reading rates in Australia about 3 weeks ago, and it's just really, really bad. So what our charity tries to do is just donate these free books to organisations and just get more Australians reading, and hopefully they find something in it like I did when I was pretty down on myself.
Interested to know, though, is it the book? Is it the access? I don't think it's access to books is the reason we're not reading,
So
right?
I would love, because council-funded libraries are everywhere and they're fantastic. The infrastructure is beautiful, but the amount of traffic that's actually going in there, their marketing is just none. And I'm out of defence now, so I'll say this, and if the librarian's listening, shame on you. But I remember I went to a Shark Tank styled, funding request for unused funds at the end of the financial year for the brigade. And what I was suggesting was just funding, I think it was like 4 community libraries for each of the combat units. And of course the brigade commander was like, "This is fantastic." Yeah, approved immediately. No naysayers. And I was wondering, I was like, "Oh, where's that $10,000 or whatever it was?"
Yeah.
And it turned out the librarian on base, a civilian, had said, "We've got a library. What is this for? What a waste of money." Not a soldier that I had in 12 years of service ever went into the library once. It's just, damn shame. Damn shame. Because when you speak to, brigade commanders, I spoke to Jake Elwood the other night from the Construction Authority, but previous, 2-star general. His favourite thing about the Darwin unit was that the officers' mess was across the road from the library. And, someone like Jake, a lot of people would look up to him. It's the same story time and time again when you meet these incredible people that you want to look up to, that you want to, emulate. Books are behind a lot of those people that we look up to in society.
Jim Mattis had a lot to say about reading books as well. So
yeah, if you haven't read 1,000 books, you are
functional literate.
Yep,
Yes.
great quote.
So my big sister, she's an author.
Yep,
She lives in Yeppoon. She's written about 90 books.
I know Yeppoon very well.
Okay, yeah, right.
She goes under an alias, though.
Yeah, Amy Andrews. She writes medical romance, Mills. She writes Harlequin, Mills and Boone. I've never read one because it's porn written by my big sister. And that's a bit too Freudian as far as I'm concerned, right?
Definitely.
But I just had to get that plug in for my big sister. So there you go, Amy Andrews.
No, good on her.
Yeah.
And I got back from, talking about people that have written a lot of books, I just got back from South Africa, and there's another ex-veteran living over there, so he's an expat. His name is, I should remember it, Tony Park. And what he did, he moved over to Africa with his partner. They went traveling there once, loved it so much, he decided to write about it. So he wrote about the poachers and stuff. He has been consistently for the past 15 years the #1 author in South Africa. Yep. And he showed me his house. He's in the national park there in Kruger, and Pan Macmillan or whoever his publisher is, they give him 4 months a year to write a book. So he moves into his house in Kruger National Park.
Writes the book in 4 months.
He showed me, it was like something out of, I can't even think, but it was like something out of a dream. He can look out his window, 360-degree views, see giraffes, monkeys, lions, and his books are just fantastic. So good on Tony. What a way to live, and good on him for sticking to being an author, because it's so difficult, as your sister would know, especially these days.
Well, it's creating that right environment. Going back to the access to books, which I don't think it is access to books. Is it influence? Like you've set up different book clubs, you run initiatives, there's the book week reading challenge or the Readathon, is that what you've got?
Yeah, that's right. So our big Readathon's coming up next month. But you're right, yeah, it's not access to books. A lot of the time, it's so funny to me because we send our children to school, between the ages of 5 and 18, and we go, you must go to school. That's a good use of your time. And, maybe we go to university after, but after that we stop learning, we stop self-learning, and I just think that's ridiculous. So I think, if we can get more parents reading books and set the example for the younger generation, then that's fantastic, and that's who we need to target so that it trickles down, because like you said, it's definitely not the access to books in Australia. Australia's amazing. So
how do we tackle the competing attention span? So you got young people glued to screens. How do we draw them away from that to read a book?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And there's a really good author called Jahan Hari. He wrote this book called Stolen Focus in about 2020, I think. And what his data shows is that the average attention span has gone from 20 seconds in the early 2000s down to about 8 seconds today, if not worse, because TikTok was just going through the roof.
Like 2-3 seconds.
So we actually do have shorter attention spans than goldfish at the moment, which is just horrible. The beautiful thing about reading a paperback book is that you've got nothing else to do but read. And we all know when you start reading a page, you get distracted.
Yeah,
your phone will, if you can lock in, it's just like meditation. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people who've meditated before. Very hard to do properly. But reading a book, you gain the same stress reduction in 6 minutes. So stress reduces by 68%. It encourages the theta brainwaves and all that good stuff. And then the stories actually stick to your long-term memory as well, which is so wild, because I'll give speeches at schools and say this is so important, guys. Name 2 reels that you saw on your phone yesterday to the teachers. No one can remember. They've watched it for hours. But then I'll ask them, hey, who here read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley in school? And a teacher will put his hand up and I'll say, tell me the basis of that book. What are the lessons of that book? And their long-term memory, because of that meditative state that we go into when we read, they'll be able to read back the story, read back the lessons learned. And, how incredible that 2-hour investment may change your life, may give you lessons for life to think back to the story and the character, as opposed to just reels.
Nowadays, you sort of like Atlas Shrugged and is it Road to Wigan Pier maybe? A little bit sort of dystopian, aren't we nowadays? Get back to a bit of Orwell,
no comment. Ayn Rand. No comment. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And no, you're a big commentator on it as well. It is an interesting time. And I just think both parties should be encouraging more reading and education for adults.
And so do you think, is there reading on a device, is that the same as, different to reading a book? I get that. And I don't like devices. I can't concentrate with the devices. If I usually print something out like a contract.
I read, too many distractions.
So one of the reasons I don't read books is because I spend a lot of time in the car and audiobooks are easier, so I do consume a lot of content. The other one is like I read a contract, like a shareholders agreement is just so freaking boring, if you know what I mean. But I've got to print it out, otherwise if the machine goes ping, you get distracted. So like, is there studies around the difference between like that printed, the screen word and the paper word? Or?
Yeah, so Australia actually has one of the leading researchers and scientists into this, and bless him, because it sounds pretty boring to not only read but study reading. And he was saying that there is a marked difference between reading a paperback and reading a digital screen in terms of memory and that meditative state. But what I say all the time is, if that's the roadblock, if having a Kindle or a Kobo or, a phone to read books is the roadblock, then just read anyway. So I have to be very careful when I say that. I encourage anybody from doing any reading at all.
And consuming the content.
Yeah, but yes, physical books technically would have a better impact.
I love what J.K. Rowling's done. I'm not big into the Harry Potter world, but the fact you've got so many kids reading such goddamn big books, if you know
huge,
what I mean.
Massive.
And just
For
she
years.
deserves every every nomination list she can get onto, I reckon.
And here in Australia, so you guys may have seen this. So about 4 months ago, there's an ex-NRL player, gorgeous looking guy. I think he's a farmer now.
Yeah, I've seen him. I've seen his videos.
Yeah, and he came out and he was reading some sort of fantasy, not proper smart, but fantasy books that women love. And this guy has just exploded.
He goes
into
online
social
to
media.
give you background. He goes online, does a review, but in his tractor or something, right?
Oh, good on him.
Absolute hunk, right? And
The following is just massive.
And massive. And I must get forwarded his bloody page at least once a day for the last 3 weeks. And I've just
influence,
right?
It
is. And I've just looked at that and gone, one, good on him, but two, how easy to put people like this. Imagine if we got sporting stars talking about books that had impacted and any sort of high performer, a lot of the times will have read a book that made a marked impact on their life. And we mentioned Jim Collins' book before, Good to Great. I was at some event and in the party that I was with, and now I could be getting the business wrong, but I'm fairly positive it was Nutrition Warehouse. Right? This guy goes to me, goes, what's Brothers and Books at the time? What's that all about? And I said, we're just trying to get more people reading books. And he goes, can I tell you a secret? I never passed year 10. I read one book my entire life and it's called Good to Great. Every year I implement a different chapter of that book with my team, and we've got like 260 stores or something like that. And I said, isn't that fantastic? So I'm trying to get all those great stories and then pump them out to the people.
Use them as examples.
Exactly right. And you look at, me spending 2 years in bed, it's pretty atypical to people being inspired by books. Mandela, 27 years in prison, what did he do? Read books the whole time. There's a really great surgeon in the Gold Coast named, and I'm forgetting his name, but he wrote this fantastic book called Stronger. Dinesh Palapana, he's a Young Australian of the Year. He was in a car accident, he's still paralysed today, but in his recovery, 2 years in bed, what did he do? Read a bunch of books, decided he wanted to be a doctor, and now he's the first surgeon in a wheelchair to lecture at Harvard University. And he puts it all down to
reading.
Having the time to read books. It's truly magical and it's life-changing.
Has it inspired you to write anything?
So that's a great question. I'm too busy dealing with authors and wanting marketing.
Do you think that's an excuse?
It is a massive excuse, but I keep myself busy. I'm sure something will come in the future and get the word out about bibliotherapy. There's a few great psychologists that have written books around bibliotherapy, and hopefully we can continue to grow the charity. And once I write my book, I can buy it back off myself for the charity and put it in all the different libraries. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Beaton's Own Venture Partners, we're a venture fund. So I love talking about money. So you have a charity or not-for-profit?
Charity.
Charity, yep. So you're employed by that charity? That's your job, day job?
No, so I volunteer. So I've got a property portfolio and I've actually just taken up a job with a really great organisation, Disaster Relief Australia, coming up. But I've been volunteering for the charity for 5 years because I know what the weaknesses of charities are, and that is people doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Consistency, transparency, fiscal efficacy. So
You read that in the book, did you?
So it's actually on the ACNC website. 1, 2, 3, those points I made. I never wanted the charity to be able to pay myself because I know that's where things go wrong. I also wanted to set up the revenue lines so that we weren't dependent on government.
How big's a charity? So in dollar terms?
So about $280,000 last year.
Yeah, okay.
But that enables a number of community
So
libraries.
how many of them books is that? Do you count that? What's your North Star metrics? We talk about North Star metrics. What do you judge the business by? Is it dollars collected or is it books delivered?
So we're trying to do $6,500 of books per week, which is about 2 community libraries, is what we need to do. But again,
so do you get a discount? How much is a book, may I ask?
Yeah, so books are more expensive than you would think. They're around $20 average, and then the postage as well is one of our biggest costs.
The cost of books
are going up. But Booktopia has been good enough where to come on board this year for the Readathon, and hopefully that goes gangbusters.
Well, this is in August 2025, right? And you know what tomorrow is? I don't know about your school, Peter, but ours is Book Week tomorrow.
Yes,
so
it is Book Week.
My wife gets tortured with taking the kids to school and all sorts of fancy dress. But Book Week, things like Book Week's
fantastic.
Right? How many speaking engagements have you got for Book Week?
Oh, so none for Book Week, but actually there's heaps of speaking engagements next week. There's a really good local private school that's getting dads and their sons in for a speech from me, but then the dads will talk about books that impacted life. They'll write a review, put it in the front of the book, like Steve's books with all the library cards he hasn't taken back. But
they're comic books and all, in all defence, it's all right.
The fathers will leave their review of a book in the front of it to say, this is what this meant to me when I read it at your age, to try and encourage more kids to pick it up.
Lovely.
That's nice.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait, actually. It should be a really good evening.
It's obviously just taking somebody to take a different type of an approach or start an initiative that other people like to join in on something that means something. So usually it just takes a person to have one idea, kick something off, and invite other people to join in, which is obviously what you've done with those various book clubs, opportunities, people to get together.
Absolutely. And it's what we're continuing to encourage organisations to do. You know, there's some fantastic organisations and with, you know, great employment assistance programs, and they might start a run club or, you know, get someone in to talk to their organisations. But what we're trying to do is just use bibliotherapy as an extra tool in their toolbox. Now, whether we provide the books or not, why not? It's such a cheap way to really help someone in need, especially if they face some sort of physical adversity or mental adversity as well. I know when I'm depressed, and it doesn't happen often since I read Viktor Frankl's book, because nothing like a perspective slap of a Holocaust survivor to wake up to yourself in Australia. But what can I do from my bed? Well, I can read a book. So, you know, in the Defence Force especially, and we support a number of cops. New South Wales Ambulance have just requested $1 million worth of community libraries. So I'll work through that one. I don't know how. You know, if these people get injured on the front line and they're in bed and they can't see a psych and they can't go to their physio and they can't see their friends, et cetera, or maintain their diet or whatever, they can still read a book. And that's where we come in and what we're trying to promote in all these different organisations for people to stand up and go, let's do it. And, you know, it's fantastic in the charity because I meet all these fantastic leaders that do want to be the influence, that do want to lead and do want to charge forward with staff to read books.
So have you had to be, you've obviously been the main person, so the person who goes and does all the approaching, the selling, the pitching, the follow-up, the contracts.
Yeah, less selling, more buying for organisations, yeah.
Okay. Right. And so
that's the model. Sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
That's the model. They approach you and say, New South Wales Ambulance says, I want a million books, and you make a markup on that to fund the other stuff.
No, so no markup. So no. So we completely run at a loss every year. So
where do you get your prices?
So we run fundraisers. So and one of the board directors now needs to do some government lobbying for ourselves because it's so wild to me. Like we have done a lot of good work, hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting, let's say QPS, for example, in every police station in Brisbane, you know, and we haven't tried for it. And that comes down to me as the founder and the CEO to
maybe too nice.
Well, exactly
He's
right.
exceptionally nice, isn't he?
And now I'm of the opinion, and I'm sure you guys will both agree, that founders should not be CEOs of charities, and we need someone way more vicious than myself. But because of the mountain of work that the charity has achieved in the past couple of years, time and market's obviously very important for an NFP as well. I've got no doubt that, you know, it's going to go gangbusters, and whoever
you
takes
need
over
you need to
after me will be good.
commercialise a little bit to be able to stay alive and still have the impact.
Without a doubt. And this is where Booktopia will be fantastic as a partnership. Really, really good because I think they went bust recently. They were publicly traded. They've just been bought by DigiDirect, and DigiDirect, an enormous brand here in Australia. And so what they've done is they've gotten the biggest automated warehouse in Australia, which is what Booktopia's asset was. And now DigiDirect's putting their other businesses in there as well to utilise all the space effectively. And now Booktopia, I'm proud to say, because it's an Australian company, it's selling close to 30,000 books per day direct to consumer, which is good on them to come back from 30,000 a day. I was there, I got a tour.
Wow.
It was amazing. Little robots going around grabbing books, truck after truck, just selling books. So good on them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that aside, you learned a lot about business, whether you wanted to or not. You had to throw yourself in the deep end. What's next? Are you looking to create something else that's not a social impact
Enterprise?
Initiative?
That's a really good question. I do a bit of consulting now. What I love doing now is just supporting other people. And obviously I can't get rid of that trade. I run a website company on the side as well, and we do
So you build websites?
We build websites for other people, and we're constantly supporting I am constantly supporting other people. You know, as you both know, being a founder is super hard. What my end state for the charity was always get it to a point where it's self-sufficient, and it almost is, and then just hand it over to continue its good work so that I never have to deal with the politics internal to the organisation, and maybe just sit back as a patron and say, good work, or hey, where'd that money go? Because everywhere you look, especially
wheel you out for a couple of speaking gigs and that sort of stuff.
Well, every charity that you go, it's hard to justify as a founder. And when you understand good fiscal management and you see, you know, the ACNC records or another annual report that says next year we'll be self-sufficient, please 20 more million. You just go, why is the government giving these people money? They were never self-supported So why continue giving money to something that's losing money? So it's hard. It's hard to be a charity founder with morals. So if you're out there listening
Charity
and you've got ethics,
Yeah.
do not do it. Start a business, and if you're passionate about something, take the profits and
purpose.
put it into something that you
I would
love.
say before you give to a charity, grab their annual report and just see what their ratio between expenses and donations are,
Yeah.
and then make your decision based on that. And you might be shocked how little some of these give back.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And it's all public knowledge as well. Yeah. But no, nothing in the pipeline yet for any future businesses. Just want to encourage other people to, find their niche. Unfortunately for me, I mentioned earlier a master's degree in business. All my friends are engineers or doctors. So I'm fully aware that I have qualitative skills instead of quantitative. So I'm finding my own way amongst a bunch of smart people.
Yeah.
How old are you? Sorry.
I'm 31 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad for 31.
No, you certainly, yeah. And do you think you would have been interested in business or running something for impact had you not have had your illness?
No. So, and this is why, and every charity founder is obviously just projecting their own psychology onto other people, probably business owners as well. But no, I was, as I come, just another 25-year-old, tatted up infantry officer that wasn't thinking about anything else but army. And that's where reading, really changed my life. So the best thing about the charity over the past 5 years has just been seeing so much growth from individuals that have picked up books, hearing all these stories from people who are having a hard time, found a book and it changed their life. So, I really hope psychologists start using the term bibliotherapy, but also start recommending more books as well. And all the good psychologists and psychiatrists already do it. And with that word bibliotherapy, I did have a big proud moment last year when the Governor General used the word bibliotherapy in a speech at some events that I was at, and obviously,
the impact has reached that far.
Fantastic, and I give it a brown bag of cash, but I'll still take it. So good on Sam Motson.
Yeah. Do any of your mates from defence or whatnot come to you for advice in how to start a business? Should they start a business? Should they leave? Can I exit?
All the time. So I work from home running the charity. It's all online based outside of the community library program, which is physical. The house is just a revolving door of business advice, obviously. And I probably give out, I was about to exaggerate, probably 15 books per week to different people who ask for advice.
So for people coming in for business questions, you're giving them books?
Big time, yeah. And then I'm giving them some rousing speech about...
What are the standard questions? What are they coming in with?
Oh, look, well, authors are a big one. Let's use authors as a case study. We get a lot of requests from veteran authors mainly.
Veteran authors.
Yeah,
okay.
As well, but civilians too. Anybody that's written a book, they'll come across a charity, not anybody, they'll come across a charity online and they'll send me an email going, can you review my book? And post it on the charity's page, etc. I have to say, God, yes, I can, but I'm limited to time. What you should do is read the same books that have
So they're
enabled
actually looking
me.
to you for more marketing and
Well, that's
promotion.
right. So we could sell marketing, but it's just not in line with what we do. It crowds the space. We need to be seen as a not-for-profit. We definitely give away more cash than we get in, which is probably not good for a charity. I think we sponsor 7 different emergency service and defence.
Maybe author agent.
Well, potentially there'd be a lot of money in the
That's
marketing.
Dylan's enterprise off to the side.
Yeah, consulting for marketing. There's a lot of people that do that. It's always funny when you see a marketing agency. I think the one that got Defence's contract recently has 500 followers or something on social media. They just got given $1 billion to run the marketing.
$1 billion?
Yeah, that's correct. It's about $1.02 billion over the next 4 years to run the marketing. And it's like, well, where's your proof of concept? Not on social media. It must be somewhere else.
I was just looking at, there's one veteran book I read. There's a guy, I think it was an SAS trooper who used to write about getting magically transported back in time. So I'm looking through my Audible list. I was going to chat about it. I think I might know him, but
no, yeah, question around, veteran business owners or founders kicking off, and it's something that we see some of, but not a lot of it. They do it really well in America, and we were talking about this previously, there's a lot of support for veteran founders. Australia isn't great at it now in terms of business.
Well, I think that we don't disrespect veterans, but they elevate respect for veterans, do at the same time. So we see that in business. You see, I commented a lot about how when you walk into a US venture fund in the defence space, you've probably got some guy from JP Morgan there, some person from JP Morgan, and otherwise you've got a fighter pilot or an ex-Navy SEAL or Delta guy or something, I don't know, so then that's just standard. Where it's bloody rare here.
It's ridiculous, and there should be more programs within the Defence Force, and I know that's what your team is doing, to talk to people like Jake, to talk about the pathways to opportunity, but outside of yourselves, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in Australia, so good on you guys for doing what you do, because it's such a shame. And I know Commonwealth Bank, Julie Hall, who you guys would probably probably know.
Jake
She's started the veteran business, you know, the banking, you know, good on them. And there's so many veterans out there that are getting these huge compensation payments. And, you know, maybe in America, they're focused on innovation and that sort of stuff, as opposed to sort of the socialist, you know, welfare sort of thing that we've got here, because veterans are very well looked after. It's not the money that they're struggling with.
No, it just needs to be channeled into something.
And it's such a shame to see. So that's why the charity for me, you know, coming out of defence, it makes so much sense to me, because these people just need to pick up a book and you know, turn their money into something else and giving back to people.
Or be wrapped and surrounded by people who can give a bit of guidance on what to do next. I think sometimes, like I find defence people are amazing at executing because they're great at following rules and instructions and being part of a team. It's just like what steps to take and when.
Exactly right. Education.
Yeah.
Lack of education.
Yeah, which is great.
How can we help? Beaton's on you guys. I mean, obviously with the podcast, this is like, you know, that's great, but you probably do a dozen of these a month.
So you'll probably hear, you both are thinking, oh, this guy's too nice to be a fan. The best
You're just too nice in general. I'll tell you what.
The best way that you guys can help, and actually it's so funny because to get me here today, Jake's like, can you do this? And I was like, only on one condition. You sign up to the Readathon and try and...
Actually, I saw it on the email.
Yeah,
I did see that.
Yeah, and try and read some books this September. And Audible is totally fine. People like yourselves, you know, and especially yourself, Steve.
All right, I will commit to the physical book.
It's so easy to encourage more people to read books. So if you've got book recommendations...
I'll have to send you a picture of my library today.
Yeah.
Just literally my commute.
We've even got one in the office. We've got all the business books in the office.
But that's the best way to help. And, you know, we've been in the space for a long time. We've got heaps of... really
Does Tintin and Asterix count? That's my latest one.
Tintin definitely counts.
Tintin's great.
A lot
kids'
of
books. Come on now.
A lot of parents that do the Readathon will be like, oh, well, I'm reading this one with my kid.
Yeah, with the children.
Yeah. So Tintin definitely counts. But yeah, look, just keep us in mind and, you know, start more conversations about which books people have read. And when you run into someone that you look up to or you want to know more about them, ask them, what is a book that has shaped your life? And to me, that's the best way to learn from someone. And it's why mentors and mentees, often the mentee gets to frog leap the mentor, because they condense all of the best parts of their knowledge, pass it on, which means you're not having to spend 20 years to find out what they know. Now, that's exactly what authors do. One of the biggest book recommendations...
What's it take to get this charity your self-sustaining? So at what point is it a real... So you're working towards some end point where it's going to be free running. What is that? So you mentioned $280,000, I think, before.
Yeah, last year,
line.
yeah.
So what's the top line to get it free running?
Well, so you won't be surprised to hear this, Steve, but if you put up on your website that you will give away free community libraries valued at around $3,500 to $4,000, the uptake is huge. So giving up with demand. So more or less, that figure of around $280,000 last financial year was what it was required to keep up with the demand of the community libraries.
How many libraries was that?
So 300,000, about 100 community libraries in a single year, and that was our biggest year.
And you're looking to continue growing.
Exactly.
So
right.
once you supply, that's it. So you supply the libraries. You don't keep switching out books.
So no.
So you're missing the end of my question here.
How
right?
much?
So,
how much do you need for you to happily?
If you were to pitch me, for example, to get this thing self-sustaining, what would you pitch?
So what I would pitch is, right now we've been requested by New South Wales Ambulance Service to provide a free community library in every single one of their paramedic stations around New South Wales. I see that sort of contract that they've asked for as a really great launch pad to get this out to more and more Australian people.
You're not good at this, are you? This pitching thing.
So it's $1 million. It's
right.
300.
So that's what Ambo's going to pay you?
No. So that's the amount of money that it will cost to be able to supply the community libraries for all of New South Wales.
What are the Ambos paying? Nothing.
The Ambos pay nothing.
They just request it.
And then
you've got a hole in your business plan here.
No. So here it is.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know if I can say it on here, but what we do is we want to be a charity that actually makes impact. You know, I go on social media and all I see from other charities is just fundraising. If you go to our charity social media, it is constantly giving. It's the actual philanthropy. And so where the business model makes sense, it doesn't make sense at the moment, but where the end state is we can supply these community libraries to all these fantastic people around the country and continue to do that. Then instead of doing, and again, I don't want to talk ill of any charity, but let's say, you know, in the army, we always did the push-up challenge. I have not seen once where the hell that money goes to, right? Instead, they go, hey, we could do the push-up challenge this year, but how about we Yeah, but
So
we could support the charity that's given us a free library.
So you're funded by the fundraising. So
Yeah,
we're
that's
saying
right.
the
Fundraising,
Readathon,
fundraising, merchandise sales, donations,
and that's it.
and that's it. And so it's sort of like a franchise.
So you
model.
raise $280,000 a year.
Yeah,
Okay,
at the moment, and it normally increases.
And you buy $280,000 worth of books.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay,
So you're going to need to raise $1 million to fund this $1 million.
Yeah, that's
contract.
right.
And in that E-Myth book, did you read about margin and gross margin and stuff?
I did.
Right, okay. Yeah, right.
I did. So, like I said, I need someone more ferocious than me to come in, but you've also got to operate within the realm that you're happy to.
Well, ultimately, I think it's good, but I think that the way I've got an opinion on charities, which is you're either a charity or business, and never the two should meet. To be honest, and you should take your profits from the business and create a charity, right?
I agree.
So, but if you want that charity self-sustaining, you've got to have a margin there somewhere. I don't know how else you can
You
do
have
it.
to fund your ops. Yeah, but also you're looking to, so you've got to have an amount that you're aiming for through your fundraising efforts, with room for expansion. So you've raised 280, but you need to now fund this $1 million.
Yeah, well, so what would be great for us would be being able to pay our operations officer, and for him to, and he runs a number of businesses as well.
Then the Ambo's up for like 2 to 1. I mean, okay, so instead of charging them $30 a book, charge them $60 a book, and someone gets the book for free.
So what we have found, the Chief of Army is about to bring in mandatory.
Simon, is it still? Or?
Yeah. So mandatory reading list. And so what has happened is we have now started to give them options. They can buy a library, they can fund half the library, or they can get one for free. But we have been selling quite a lot of libraries back to Defence, because Defence spends money on all sorts of things, but down at the tactical level,
should be buying one for one. They should buy one.
So we gave a library to Boeing for free.
Yeah, because they're a pretty poor corporation too, right?
Yeah.
You are a businessman, aren't you? You should be in tech startup community. They're really good at losing money, just like that.
We set up a community library for
the corporate should be funding this, I think.
Mrs. Hunt, you mean?
Yeah, Mrs. Reinhardt out at a fly in, fly out workers camp, which is fantastic because now the guys can.
Was that Roy Hill? Was that?
Yeah, Roy Hill. Yeah.
The bloke I serve works out there actually.
Yeah. So more books everywhere. Yeah.
So
we still need a funding model for this charity.
I know.
Did you even try and say that's great? We can put one for Roy Hill, which is exporting, X many billion gajillion tons of iron ore a day. Excuse me, 1 second. I'll just finish this if it's all right. And we'll you buy one and we'll put one in an Ambo station. I mean, it's got to be an easy sell, surely. Have you asked?
No.
So he seems too nice to ask.
We've got all the
he seems way too nice to ask.
So we brought on a partnerships officer.
Commando's able to take you, mate, because you were way too nice.
So I was a different guy, Ben. I found too much emotional intelligence through reading.
To just bring you need to know when to wear these personas, all right? You need to bring a little bit of that version of Dylan back in for the CEO hat to get the funding to keep this thing going, so you can go and be happy, Dylan, over here having impact in the world.
I completely agree with you both. And it is something that I continuously...
Oh, it's so trite. He's beautiful when he says it, but it's so trite. I completely...
No. It is. I said to my partner earlier this year, so I threw my hat in the ring for... I helped out as a federal campaign manager earlier this year for the LNP. And I said to Haley after that event, I just said...
Wasn't that a fun campaign?
It was so good.
Yeah. And he was determined to die on his knees, and he proved it.
And I just said, look, I need to change this one aspect of myself. I can't continue to be as... And there's no such thing as altruism, but this altruistic characteristic of mine, is holding me back at this point in my life now that I'm 30 years old. So, no, I completely agree with you both.
So this didn't really mean to be a,
no, this is great. This might be feedback. What I need. Yeah, definitely.
But if you want it to keep having impact, there has to be a bit of commerciality there focused on how do you keep it going.
And my mercenary approach to charities isn't because I hate charities, because I like charities. But if you try and mix a business and a charity, right, most businesses fail. That's actually the natural state is failure, right? So if you try to have a business and a charity, you've made that now more complicated. So your business is going to fail, your charity is going to fail. So just get this one successful. You have a better chance of having your business successful. And if you produce yourself a dividend and excess payment, then you can fund a charity. I mean,
fund the person that runs the charity, yeah.
It's just an important distinction and mindset. So in that charity, then that charity actually does need to be a self-fulfilling business, right? So you need a margin in there somehow, right? You should have a pitch deck, and we should get you some sort of pitch function. You should we'll get you to come down to Indopac in Sydney in November. And you can have an AUKUS Pillar 2 pitch thing, and we can have an intermission. I'm making this up, Peter, to go along, okay? So just slap me down later. She's used to me freewheeling a bit, so that's all right.
No, I've got to make
intermission
it work.
there, we can have like this, having like pictures of military technology. But in the middle, let's have a more altruistic pitch. You can come down and just, hey, pitch for like two.
There's a lot of good people in the room.
Pitch for like $250,000 for 2 years worth of support.
Just get it funded.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
That'd be absolutely
We
fantastic.
can help you with pitch deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter can do pitch deck. She's good at them.
I'll send you the draft, Peter. Thank you very much.
Then we work on the training. Let's be strong and direct.
But it might be good to part
No, true.
Bibliotherapy, you know. So yeah.
Well, you're both, of course, spot on. And, you know, we've got all the partnership documents ready to go. They look fantastic. It's just about now finding the right businesses for long-term growth that see the value in it as well.
Well, I think that you already have the impact. You've already proven it out. It's like, most
actually
people
done
get
the
stuck
hard
here
part.
trying to go, I
You've
need to
got
do
a
a bit
point.
more evidence. Like, I don't think you need any more evidence.
And to be honest, and I know I'm trying to crawl my way back out, and I do really appreciate all of the advice. Of course I do. I very genuinely do. When I started this, I was like, well, let's be so big, let's be so great that eventually people will come to us and offer us money. And that has happened a number of times. You know, we had some great donors in the past. That time in market for a charity is so important. And I think if we've done anything well, we've done consistency in saying what we're going to do. And I think that's
I agree with that, right? And there's a saying in venture, right? Go looking for money, get advice. Go looking for advice, get money, right? So, but there's two things in common with that strategy. You're looking. To me, you're not looking. To me, you're doing stuff and you're expecting people to see what you're doing, right? You've still got to go out there with an ask. Now, that's those
Have
two
an ask.
paths
You
were
can
different
do
ways to
both.
ask, right? So to sit there and say, go to the Hancock processing. You know, you mentioned this before as an example. Or go to a random mining company, random mining billionaire, for example, and just is what we do. You've got all these mining camps. We can do this and that. I don't know how to make this charity work, etc. Don't ask for money, right? Just sort of say, tell you genuine. You are bloody saleable. Tell you a story.
Everyone wants to help.
Where you go, right? And it's, I'm not too sure where to go from here. I'm not too sure we should go down this route. And they're going to say, hey, you know, how come, you know, that you might find that not all would, but a greater proportion of people to stick their hand in their pocket and help you out. So.
But that's when you need to have what we call hidden slides, which is when you're ready, because you know that if you know that's going to
pass the
come.
thank yous to the end. You go, all right.
So like when Steve says, "How do we help?" You already go, "Well, actually, what I've
prepared for this.
What I've thought about is this, and this, and we could really do with this."
Yeah.
Right. So you don't need to go out there begging and asking. I think it will come if you, like I said, ask for the help piece. But then you've got to have a pathway in. There has to be a mechanism for it to be.
The biggest problem is that what investors look at is will it work, right? So it's not often that a startup brings a proposition to investors saying, hey, look, I've got it working. I just need some more money. That's really rare.
Yeah.
To be honest.
There has to be some gaps.
Yeah. So in this case, in the charity sense, and you're different. This will come from a different vote of money from the various people you're talking to. It won't come from the commercial.
And it will align with someone's value. Someone will want to have an impact. They'll want to get involved for the same reason you started it, which is what you actually want. You want that aligned
and
interest.
there's an entire strata of charitable infrastructure in Australia, something called PAF, Personal Administrative Fund. It's a way that you can bring forward 10 years worth of tax to get into a charity, get that tax benefit right. It's all above board. Tax office does it. I don't have a PAF because they wanted to charge me fees and I wasn't going to pay. But anyway, but people just need things like this to invest in. So if you get to like a Macquarie or something like that, private wealth managers, and you pitch that, like, I would love this. This is not business. This is reading. Everyone's got kids.
Plus, they can. Yeah, the impact isn't just on what their investment is. It's how they can then bring it into their own worlds, whether it's the organisation, whether it's into the communities.
And that is something that we've looked at in the past, like viewing the community libraries as sort of like a Trojan horse almost.
Yeah, definitely.
In a less nefarious sense than what the original.
But you've got to load soldiers inside the Trojan horse. You're not doing that bit. I get that, right?
Yeah, but hopefully in the future, business opportunities for people providing these community libraries, whether it's employment or products or something like that, it'd be great to be able to utilize the community libraries to advertise within, at the tactical level, something as simple as that.
Do you have a board?
Do we have a board for the charity?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Only recently.
That will help some key people who might be able to steer some of these.
So partnerships is the big one. He's had 2 children this year as soon as he signed up for the board. Our government relations director, who's a really great guy, also had his first child almost straight away from stepping into the board.
Jeez, you can pick him in. What happens to your board meetings? These brings in the car keys, do they, to the board meetings?
So we
That's a different book, Peter.
And the guys, because it's obviously a mixture of them having to work, obviously, their time. So it'd be great to be able to.
Well, you want someone committed.
Intros, they're a stable name. They're an intro, right? You want someone who's not going to, who wouldn't put the name to just any sort of any spiv or shield, which you're obviously not. But then you're like, I just see what you've done. You've got the runs on the board. You need to ask. You need to lose the embarrassment of asking for a start.
But then the key intros too. So some key connections, network. I'm sure your network would be vast, and ask.
Yeah,
them.
It is honestly the last thing I have to do. That's all I have to do. Yeah, because everything else, very lean startup.
That's it.
The operations are very quick. It's almost automated, the whole process.
Yeah.
So yes, I completely agree. And maybe today was really worthwhile.
Blessing and
So-
there you go.
It's going to be
You've got to ask the kick. You've got to ask the kick.
Well, I always say I had to give a speech in front of Peter Fitzsimons and his wife and a bunch of other authors at our Cairns Writers Festival, and I was blind drunk when the organizer comes up and it's like, Dylan, I really want you to talk, tell everybody about the charity, and I come out with this great one-liner. Steve, I said, so if I tell them about my arse, and I said, so if you go on the website and you request a community library for your staff, I'll work the other half of my arse off to get it to you. And that's a repeat go back to. Yeah, no, today's been fantastic, guys.
Good.
This is good. Well, I hope this is okay for you guys.
Yeah,
Well, it's not
definitely.
we're running a pitch fest.
No, it's perfect.
I think it'd be good. No problem. Like, it'd be good to get behind something like that.
It'd be great.
It's low
It's
friction
really
for us.
fitting.
Yeah, and it fits what we're doing.
Good audience. Plus, we're actually genuinely interested on your impact as well.
Plus, in Sydney, I walk in Macquarie's, I walk in as many people as I can, and you can go and pitch out. So I would invite them to the pitch. Whoop, I touched the microphone. I invite them to the pitch day as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've got people who want to deploy funds in, and the money managers get fees out of what gets deployed, not what sits there. So they want to encourage their customers to deploy. So that sort of incentive, you know what I mean? So it lines up, to be quite blunt.
Well, and they'll have a lot of impact as well, which is great.
Yeah, well, internally,
It's
because
all
they
right.
can implement it in their own organisations, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So we'll be pitching in November.
Oh, well, this was fantastic. Thanks so much, guys.
No one's going to half-ass job, whatever you do.
No one's going to believe me, by the way, when I leave here. And
Just go, what did it turn into? We're turning into a mentoring session.
Steve and Peter gave me mentoring for 30 minutes.
Car keys and bowls and all sorts of stuff was going on there.
Oh, goodness. Well,
Awesome.
guys, I don't know if this is the
that's
end.
that's
Yeah,
good.
we're
That's
sick of you.
it.
It's all good.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. Today's
No, it was great.
been fantastic, and I know obviously charity-based, not for profit, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the chat, because I know I certainly did, guys.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
thanks so
And our
much,
commitment is to read a book in September. There you go, Steve. Evidence.
Oh, school holidays, that's good. I'll get it done. That's cool. I'll be lying at the farm watching the cows.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll get it done.
Fantastic.
Cool.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us in the briefing room. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with the people shaping our national security and future capability. If you liked what you heard, please follow the show, share it with a friend, and join us next time for more stories and insights from the front lines of innovation. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep building the future.